Welcome to episode number 15 of the Men and Community Podcast. On our first ever guest episode, Matt and Carlo are joined by some amazing members of their community. Join us as we discuss the advantages of lasting friendship, how to learn from each other, and the value that good people hold in our lives. Thank you for being part of our community. Welcome to a very special episode of the Men and Community Podcast. For those of you that are listening to us, it is special because we are surrounded by some of the best people in the world on the first episode where we actually have guests. And I think this is really important for me and Matt because this is the Men and Community Podcast, and these guys are some of the best parts of our community. So we're super thrilled to have them. We're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. We've got some of the boys being pretty apprehensive. It is currently July in Calgary, so the Calgary Stampede is in full swing, which we attended last night.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw indeed, yeah. So some of us are doing better than others, but we're going to go right into the podcast. Do we want to introduce everybody now, or are we going to introduce them with the cards?
You know, we're going to introduce everybody with a card. So if you've listened to one of our episodes before, you know that we like to try to get the creative brain juices flowing by asking some really fun and sometimes ridiculous questions. So we're going to do a lightning round. So instead of having everybody answer the same question, we're just going to do it lightning style. I'm going to send a question to each one of you here, and you can, off the top of your head, let us know what the answers to these questions would be for you. So we're going to start. Let's start with the West Coast because I think they're the most important anyways.
They're the most premium.
The most premium.
Well, I was going to say that's Ontario, but that's all right.
So starting off at the far end, we've got Erich. And so Erich, I want you to tell us what is something about your childhood that a lot of people wouldn't guess. What's something about your childhood that most people wouldn't guess?
Oh. That's a tricky one, Matt. I don't know. I feel like, I guess for everyone here in the room, I've bounced around a lot, I guess, like growing up. So, like, grew up in Winnipeg, and then moved to Calgary, and now obviously in Vancouver. But a funny thing about that is I like to kind of frame where I'm from depending on who I meet.
What's convenient at the time?
I don't know. It helps draw like similarities and like
best foot forward.
Yeah, and it helps break the ice, I feel. So, you know, if there's something going on and someone's from Winnipeg, all of a sudden I'm like Winnipegian or Winterpegian, or if someone's from Calgary, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually from Calgary. And then now it's obviously shifted to I'm in Vancouver now, and if I have something in common with someone from the West Coast, I'm like, I'm your guy. And it's always been like really funny kind of watching you specifically, Matt, but I know Kai and Carlo as well, like just give the biggest eye rolls whenever I'm trying to be like, hey, this is where I'm from. So
can we back up for a second? Is it actually called Winnipegian?
I just honestly made that up on the spot.
Okay. So he's not real good Winnipeg native. Doesn't even know what they're called. Yeah.
I think Winterpegian is probably
Winterpegian. That's the technical term.
Probably
I would
the most
call
technical
them like
term.
pegs. And some
derogatory.
This is gonna be a great
episode. Take that one any further, we have to up that
rating that doesn't exist.
All right, we're gonna go to the other end now. We'll bounce back and forth between West Coast and middle of the country. Sean, I want you to tell us if you were in jail and you could request one specific person to break you out of jail, who would it be?
It's got to be Kyle. Kyle probably has a plan already formulated to get me out of prison.
Definitely.
Kyle probably broke himself out of prison. Kyle almost had to break himself out of prison.
Show up one day, I'm the warden all of a sudden.
So, Kyle, final answer.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Very good. That was quick. That was crisp. Well done. Hey, Kai. Good friend Kai.
Sir.
What is the most likely reason that you would lose your job?
The most likely reason that I would lose my job.
Like, I've got an answer for you, but I just kind of assume. But I'll let you...
Okay, that depends. Are you asking in terms of what I'm doing specifically now, or just in general?
I think it's more of a general comment about you. Like, what is a tendency that you have or something about yourself that is like something that could conceivably end up with you getting fired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could see where you were going with that, and that's what I was thinking anyways. For me, would probably be doing something to help a patient that probably would be taken too far. And because there's always things that come up, and we don't always agree with it, and the way it's framed and the way it comes across from whether it's management or from other staff members. But I would say probably for me it would be doing something to help a patient, and then having that either be taken the wrong way or not fully aligning with exactly what we're supposed to do, but it's for the best. It's for the betterment of the patient and their experience. And I think that's probably what would get me fired.
I love that. That was a really beautiful answer. And I thought I had you in a corner. I thought I was going to get you to admit that you are late all the time.
Nah.
I thought I had you in a corner, and it didn't happen.
Absolutely not.
All right.
I mean, as we all know, we all just tell Kai to show up 30 minutes ahead of
That's true.
when we actually want him there.
And sometimes.
And then he's on time, so.
So, Kyle,
Yes.
what would you ask Hugh Hefner if he came over for dinner?
What a great question.
Great, Kyle.
For the right guy, too.
That's taken out of context a little bit.
Can you put it in context for us?
What would I ask Hugh Hefner? Probably something super boring, because I feel like I would just be so awkward with him there. I just would not know. I'd be like, where's your favorite travel spot? Like, what's...
How's your day?
Yeah, how's your day? Like, what's, you know...
Weather outside.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of silk robe?
How many do you have? Like,
That'd be a good question.
how many beds are there in the Playboy Mansion? I
Oh,
don't
you know he would have like an
something-
exact answer
Oh,
for
for
that.
sure.
Sure. Like 47 and a half.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah, old
half.
Hugh.
Shays Lounge.
Maybe I'd say, what's your secret? What keeps you going? Keeps you energized?
That has some connotations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your secret? What's
Absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
All right.
Love
That's what
that.
I'd ask him.
That's a great Kyle question.
Wonderful. Well, let's take it away. As Carlo was mentioning, we're really excited to now start introducing more guests into the work and starting to have you, as our listeners, have the opportunity to listen to someone other than the two of us. And so I think, we want to just toss out a couple of really just general questions and just kind of gonna go where we feel and see how excited we get about certain answers. Do you have something that you want to start with? Do you want me to jump in?
I'll get you to start with the questions, but I think I just want to give a little bit more background story to kind of how we all know each other. So,
Really good.
Sean and Kyle, Matt and I met them on our Costa Rica trip that we did our bonus episode on, and that a good chunk of our intro was filmed on the beach with those guys. I'm pretty sure at some point they were holding the cameras. You guys were featured in our Valentine's Day post on Instagram.
That's right,
That's Sean and Kyle expressing their bro love, and these guys, for the short amount of time that we have met them, have managed to slot themselves in really wonderfully into our lives. They complement each other beautifully. They're really wonderful guys, and so they're down from Edmonton here in Calgary for the Stampede. We're doing the typical Alberta boy style and just partying until Matt doesn't remember what he did the night before. And I just want to say that I'm super grateful that you guys are here. We're super excited to have you not only with us right now, but on the show. And I think we're going to have some really cool conversations, and I'm excited to see how our friendships kind of continue to evolve as time goes on. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you talk about these two.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Vancouver folks, really, really two very special friends of ours. Erich I've known for about 15, 16 years at this point now, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
We worked together for a very long time, running day camps together, working in a fitness center, all sorts of things. long hours at the rec center playing ping pong when we were supposed to be working.
Perks of the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Job perks for sure. And, about 6 years ago now, Erich told me that he was moving to Vancouver, and I have a lot of friends and family in Vancouver. And as it turned out, in that same year, I had just become pretty close friends with Kai, who at one point in time was my cousin's roommate. And so Kai and I became close, very similar to the story of how Carlo and I became close, which was we were co-groomsmen in someone else's wedding who we're woefully bad at keeping up with now. And so, Kai and I became close. Erich says he's moving to Vancouver, and I'm like, listen, here's Kai's number, someone that I trust while you're getting settled. Call him, don't call him, but at least you've got someone there in case something happens. And just so it turned out that it's all worked into this like magical set of friends.
Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
All right, launch us into some of the questions that you have prepared, sir.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we thought was so exciting about bringing this whole group together is to really talk about why it feels so good to have a group of guys like this all together. So the first question that I just want to toss out is, what does it mean to you to be a part of a strong network of male friends? What does that mean for you? Why is that important to you? And how does it affect your life?
And I don't think we're going to do this in order, guys. Just whoever has an answer, blurt it out, and we'll go.
Support.
Okay, tell us more.
Whether it's you just need someone to help you move a couch or talk to about emotional going-ons in your life, and
just as guys too, like we all kind of go through the same chapters in life, just maybe at different stages. Like even you guys are a couple years older than us, but Kyle and I the same age, and I started work before him. He went to school a little longer, but we kind of reached the same stages in life, and it's good to bounce things off each other and makes you a better person. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I think is unique to men is that as we go through struggles in our lives, we don't really ever seem to ask for help. Right? Like it's one thing to ask somebody to help you, move a couch, but, it's very rare for one man to go to another and say, hey, guide me through the process of, starting a business, or guide me through the process of starting a new job, or doing this or doing that. So having a group of friends like this with those kind of shared experiences, you don't have to ask. Like we'll very quickly kind of volunteer that. And having a good group means that you're just going to be exposed to more varied and better input and better guidance in some of those areas, I think.
And it's kind of cool that you say like the whole younger aspect. Like one thing that I found like has been like super helpful to myself is that having Kai and Carlo and Matt, and I'm sorry to bring the age thing into this, but just having you guys have been able to have gone through and experience a bunch of stuff kind of before like I've matured and like gotten to the same stage as you, is that you guys have been able to kind of impart a bunch of advice and just sort of I don't know, just brotherhood, and it's just been really helpful in like terms of my growth, and just really cool to kind of just provide me with like, I don't want to say it's like a advantage, but I just sort of it really just helped me shape who I am and grow. So
I had this really great flashback just now as you were saying that to taking you to the bar on your 18th birthday, and that's all I could think of as you were sharing that beautiful sentiment is you just like bopping your head around, just looking around, just so excited and happy about everything.
Just not, it's like that naivety in the moment type thing, and I'm just like, I don't know if I would have ever put myself in like that situation if I didn't have someone who I was out there to experience this with, and just like that helped install a lot of confidence in me, like going forward, and that like that just means the world type thing. And I don't think like that first time you go out at 18 and it's like you're like trying to like get used to like seeing all these girls and like have a good time, and just having you there as like a male figure is just super helpful to me. So,
and I think for me, feel like I'm the oldest one in the group, But
Elder statesman.
that's right. But I think that really like also kind of doesn't matter because we've all gone through different experiences.
Yeah.
So there are times where I will talk to Matt or Eric or even Carlo and just ask them questions just for guidance because they might have gone through something that I might not have, and just hearing their perspective and their view, even if they haven't gone through that, just hearing how they would go about that situation or deal with whatever the issue is or those challenges. And that's been really, really helpful because I know that I can call any one of you guys at any time and have that discussion. And even if you don't exactly know what to do or what to say, like we'll talk it out and we'll figure it out. So that's been great.
Yeah, like it's nice to know that you can ask almost any question and get a direct answer, but I think there's a lot of value in just having the perspective and the story of what somebody went through, because everybody's story, regardless of how similar the situation is going to be slightly different. So just having that perspective of how it made you feel and how you went through it and the challenges you had to go through just almost like gives you a little bit more ammo so that you're prepared to go through that similar thing if it were to happen to you.
Well, and to have somebody there at any given time, not necessarily to solve something for you, but to be able to say, that's really hard what you're going through. What do you need? And
Totally.
It's not an assumption that there needs to be a solution or that, everyone will have the right answer. It's just having somebody there to be able to actually vocalize it and talk to and know that they've got your back, whatever that situation is.
Yeah. And again, that's something as men that a lot of men don't have that in their lives. They don't have the ability to vocalize, something that they're going through and feel that they're listened to. If I were to say that during one of the hardest parts of my life, it was that I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to. And that wasn't true. I could have called Matt up at any time and I had plenty of other people I could have talked to. But sometimes when you're going through something really hard, if you don't have a really good core group of people to talk to, you don't feel like you should actually share your struggles because you feel like it falls on deaf ears. Right? Do you guys maybe agree with me?
For sure.
Right? So having a group like this where you can, call someone up and say, hey, I'm just going through this. I just need you to talk it through. And they could have no useful piece of advice for you, but just the fact that that they care enough about you to listen to it and, say like, hey, that sounds really tough. Like, let me know if I can help in any way is so invaluable and something that a lot of men don't have, which is unfortunate.
And I think you segued us really nicely into kind of the next piece that I wanted to tag into this. So we kind of talked about what it's like to have a group of people that you can access for that support, whether it's something as simple as moving a couch or something as complicated as like, I'm really struggling, I need help. But how does that dynamic change when it's somebody that you've had in your life for a long time? Like, what is that additional value that you get from having these long-term friendships? I guess for me, I'm starting to come to a place where, some of my friendships are like nearing adulthood, right? Like 16 years with Erich. I've known you about that long too, even though we haven't been as close for that entire time.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really interesting to think that I'm coming to a place in my life where I've had these friends for almost 2 decades. And it's becoming more and more evident to me how much I appreciate that. So what has that experience been like for all of you to have those long-term relationships, friendships with guys, and how has that kind of additionally supported what we've been talking about?
Yeah, like it's to add a layer to it. Like if you were to compare, like let's say your guys' relationship to maybe a friend you've had for a year or two, how is it different? What can you talk about with one person and not the other, kind of thing?
We've known each other for 20 years,
20 years, yeah.
So I guess that in that time, you get to know someone for that long. Stuff kind of becomes second nature. Pick up on things that maybe you wouldn't pick up on someone who you've only known for a year. Little cues, he doesn't quite seem himself today, like something's up, or just not like just a deeper friendship, deeper bond where you can almost read their mind. Like
Yeah,
you don't.
it's the unspoken part of it.
Yeah, you don't have to say exactly how you're feeling. They can just pick up on. This is how he's doing today. Something's happening, a little off or whatever it may be. So I don't know if you got anything to.
No, I really like that. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because Matt and I had a moment last night where he started to say something to Kim, and I was like, no, that's not it. And we didn't have to speak, and he didn't have to finish his sentence. I knew exactly where he was going with it, and I think that's sort of the way our friendship is too, as well. Like sometimes I just know, and same thing, vice versa. You guys just know what's happening, what's going on. Like you said, like don't really have to say anything. You just you get to that point. So yeah.
And things just seem more like effortless. Like if there's anything going on, I just pick up the phone and call you. I don't feel like it's you kind of have to go. You don't necessarily need to always go through like the small talk sort of familiarities when you're seeing someone. It's such like you can just dive right into whatever you want to talk about, and you guys are all ears and ready to help out.
Pick up the conversation where you left off, even if you haven't talked to them for months.
Well, and Matt and I say that all the time when we're sitting down and we haven't had a chance to record in a month or even see each other in a month. It feels instantaneously like it was yesterday, right? How would you answer your own question?
Yeah, I love all of the things that you've shared. I think that it's really cool to have those connections. But even more than that, what I was thinking too is with somebody who I've been friends with for such a long time, yes, you have that ability to feel like you can pick right up where you left off, that everything comes more naturally, that you kind of know instinctually what they're going through, and you can kind of understand when they're not themselves. One of the things that it seems very simple, but I appreciate so much is I just have a lot of comfort sitting in silence with some of my oldest friends. And I think sometimes in social settings, we feel such an obligation to talk or speak or socialize. And sometimes there's just so much value in just, for me, in just being able to sit, know that you're in the presence of somebody that like you're feeling supported, you're feeling good, but you don't necessarily have to be actively talking or speaking. You can just be sitting next to them, feel that security, knowing that they're there for you. And you don't have to necessarily be doing anything. You can just be there having that quality time, and it doesn't have to be active the whole time.
Yeah, there's power in the shared experience. Like this group, we've all had the opportunity to travel together in some form, right? And just going through all of those things together, whether you're actually talking or like you're convening afterwards to talk about that experience you shared. Like we did this in Costa Rica tons, right? There's so much value in that. It's just it's so great. I think for me, to answer this question, it would be the absence of the feeling of judgment, right? Like I know that I can talk to any one of you guys about anything and not feel judged. Doesn't matter, how, no matter what it is, right? And that is so rare, because even if you're talking to your parents, you're talking to family members, if you've got a significant other, sometimes there's always a level of like, I feel like they're going to think ill of me or have an opinion about this thing that I'm talking to them about. And a good, strong male bond doesn't have that, because like, I don't know if it's just that all men are kind of weird and gross, but we can talk about that and be like,
certainly these ones
are right. But like, we don't mind. It's like, whatever, man, like you do you. It doesn't make you any less of a friend. It doesn't make you any less important in my eyes. Share your struggle, share your thing. We'll laugh about it. We'll have a beer, and then we'll forget about ever talking about it. And I think that opens up the opportunity to have so many genuine conversations that is really only available through really good male friendships.
Matt, you kind of got us on this topic by talking about like the length of time you had a relationship or a friendship with somebody, and you brought up shared experiences, and I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, I've known you guys for less than a year. Because of geography, we don't see each other that often, but like, Costa Rica together, great weekends in Calgary together. Like, I feel like I can talk to you guys about anything because we've had shared experiences. It's not so much about like the length of your friendship matters for sure, but I think it really boils down to the experiences we had together.
Well,
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's the value of the time you spent together.
absolutely.
Like, think about how many like older guys in older generations where they have, you'll hear about it all the time. Yeah, he's my buddy. Well, how often do you guys see each other? Oh, like, well, we work together, and then after work we get together and have a beer, and then like on the weekends we get together and we go fishing. Cool. Like, so does that mean you have a really great friendship? Is he your best friend? No, I don't have a best friend. You spend every literal moment together, and you don't have a best friend. Well, I would argue to say that if they were to go travel the world together, that would change very, very quickly. Because, like Sean is saying, there's that shared experience, that opportunity of growth together is what kind of solidifies those bonds. It's not just everyday life together, although that does have its own merit in some ways.
This is a really interesting aha moment that I'm having right now too because of this, and thank you, Sean. You're so right. Like, I think we over-index maybe I've been putting too much weight in length of time, but you're right. It's not just knowing someone for that amount of time. You have to have the opportunity to have those really core experiences that really solidify. And, in theory, you've got more opportunity to have more core experiences the longer you've had, the longer you've had a chance to do those things, but that's not necessarily true. You can connect with somebody very, very quickly. And to your point, Carlo, traveling does that so often, so often.
And I think maybe you guys will have agree or disagree, but I feel like that's maybe why some good relationships and friendships fade, is you stop having those shared experiences, right? You get one person that goes off in one direction. Let's say he starts a family where the other one maybe doesn't and goes down a more career focused path. Well, now you're not sharing those experiences anymore. And until you have, an overlap again, that relationship starts to fade. At least I think that might be why, like, we mentioned that we became close through our buddy's wedding, right? Well, neither of us went down the life path he did. And therefore, we're not as close with him as you and I are, right?
So what I'm curious about now, because you're absolutely right, and it becomes easier to have shared experiences when you're in similar stages of life and or similar phases to some degree. But I think that's can also be a little bit of a cop-out too in some regards, and life gets busy, and we hear that all the time, life gets busy, or folks with kids, it's obviously life is so much more busy, like a different magnitude of that. But what I'd love to know from each of you is, what are the intentional things that you do to try to continue to support those male bonds and those friendships that you have? Because I think that it's certainly easier when we have those shared experiences, but it means we also have to work at it too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so often, at least, my experience is that you just fall out of touch with people. You don't pick up the phone, and so picking up the phone seems like the obvious one. But what else? Like, what else do you guys do to try to make sure that you're staying on top of keeping these bonds as strong with these close friends that you count on in your life?
I think it's just as simple as showing up on the days that, or the events that matter the most. Really great example is, like, I just turned 30, and I just had the most amazing, like, few weeks of birthday surprises, like having people, like, literally fly out to come see me and surprise me, like, on the day of my birthday, and just doing stuff like that, and, like, just making the effort, I think is huge. I mean, it's pretty easy to pick up the phone for the most part and say hi and chat, but I think just showing up on the days that it matters most is what ultimately kind of cements the friendship and keeps that shared experience going. So
I know for me, one of the things I try to do, and I'm not always great at it, is that if somebody pops into my head, like I start thinking about them, that is my cue to reach out to them in some way. Like I said, I'm not great at it. I'm trying to get better. But if you pop into my head, I usually try to pick up and send a little text or send, a quick call or, check them out on social media or something to just, you popped into my head for a reason. It's, the universe telling me I need to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
Right. Because if my brain thought enough about you to think about you, then I should probably talk to you.
Say that one more time.
My brain thought enough about you to think about you. I should probably talk to you.
Did we think the thoughts we were supposed to think?
Anyways. Okay, I have a question. So I saw this post on Reddit the other day and I thought it was very intriguing. It was a woman asking Reddit, how do guys know whether another guy is a good guy? So the idea was this, is that she introduced a new boyfriend to a lot of her male friends. And the majority of those male friends came to her and said, he's a good one. You should keep him. And she's like, these guys had maybe a couple sentences of interaction. How could they know? Like, I didn't see him do anything that would show me that he was a good guy. How do they know? So in your guys' opinions, how can you tell another guy is a good guy?
An interesting question.
I don't know if I have anything good to offer here, because on my first day at college, I just made friends with a guy I was wearing the same colored shirt with. So like that's my
so he's got the same fashion sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you say college or grade 1? What? Probably both.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe there's kind of some sort of biological underpinnings to it, like, for lack of a better term, kind of sizing up a guy, and how he presents himself, and if he's really cocky and overconfident, it could be a little off-putting. But if he's very friendly and
You gotta save the
Got
cockiness
charisma.
and overconfidence for once you're already established.
exactly. Like, it's just how they
We're friends now. You're not getting rid of me.
that.
I'm gonna come back to that.
initial meeting. Like, you want to make a good first impression, and
Yeah.
definitely.
So what does a good first impression look like?
To me, if someone's approachable, or they take the initiative and come up to me and introduce themselves, and are friendly and are interested in talking to me, asking me questions about myself, and kind of get that initial conversation going back and forth and learning about them. And I guess to me, I would probably say to a female friend, like, oh, I don't think he's a good guy. If she brought him over and he was very standoffish, tough talking to him, he didn't want to interact with anybody, he's making kind of offhanded comments, like...
We've done that before with some of our friends.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel
that's
like...
pretty much the criteria, like standoffish, doesn't want to talk to any, like not interested in being here, like, what are you doing with this guy? You know?
Just kind of get that sense of someone, for lack of a better term.
If you're the new guy in the room, I think and you're with an established group, like, you're the one that really has to be putting in that effort to kind of make that connection and bond with everyone in the room. And I think who's already established is more willing and to open up and kind of hear what you want to talk about. But you got to kind of find that shared angle. And, at the end of the day, you don't necessarily need to be best friends at the end of the day, but it's just you're looking for enough where you're like, I like that guy, and I would be more than happy to go share a drink with him or go out and do an activity with this group again. So
I think it's very much watching how that person treats other people, right? So in the example I gave, how does he treat the girl? How does he treat her friends, right? How does he, like you guys said, is he interested enough in asking those questions, or is he sitting there staring at his phone and all this kind of stuff? Like, if somebody treats people good, it's like the old adage, you can always tell whether somebody will treat you good in a relationship by how they treat the wait staff, right, at when you're out for dinner or something like that. I just thought it was a really neat kind of question, because to follow up on it, one of the comments in this post was, it was a lot of answers very similar to what we're talking about, but one of the comments was, yeah, I agree with all of this, but also I find it super interesting that women don't pick up on this. A lot of women don't pick up on how to tell if this is a good guy or not. They need to date him to figure it out. Right? So, Kyle, you said a little bit along the lines of like a biological almost sense to it. Like I could hunt with this guy kind of thing, right? And it's so interesting because it seems how we as men form friendships is so different from how women form friendships, right? Like we can have really, really quick, strong bonds like right away.
So then my next question, and to maybe segue and take this in a bit of a different direction, same thing with women. And if you ever bring your significant other, somebody that you're dating, into that group, and they're like, no, stay away from that. Is it kind of the same thing? Does it work the same way?
Again, the frame of reference we have is only purely from the male lens, right? I think that each gender has kind of different abilities and different scopes in what they see, which kind of makes sense because there's different things that are important to us, right? And I feel like it would be less likely for, one of us to go up to, say to the guy that brought his new girl along. I think it would be less likely for us to go and tell him, hey, she's bad news, stay away. Right? We kind of have a little bit more faith in each other to kind of, well, like there's some things I don't like, but I think he'll kind of figure it out. He'll realize that pretty quickly. Where it seems almost instantaneous in my experience that women will be like, no, he's bad news, kick him to the curb. Right? I feel like we have a little bit more faith in each other in that regard.
Yeah, but what if you do have a friend who is with someone and it's just not good, and he's not picking up on it, and even despite, like, I think kind of where I'm going with this, despite some circumstances and stuff that happens, he's still with that person. And then just as a friend, how do you guys go about trying to bring up that topic and tell them, kind of sidelining the initial conversation here? But
and at what point do you say something then? Because it's one thing to say that we're going to put our trust in our friends to make the best choices, but surely if we're seeing things, it would make a difference for your friend to know that up front, to have that at least in their mind so they're aware of it, because obviously nobody's perfect. But surely you'd want to know about that sooner, so you have the opportunity to at least, adjust or take off those rose-colored glasses.
And to clarify what I was saying earlier, like I feel it's less likely for us to go up to our guy friend and say that on the night of meeting the new girl.
All right.
Where I feel like that's something that's more common that a girl would do, right? And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, as I've talked about before, being in a very difficult past relationship. And I'm going to go ahead and try and answer some of the questions that were asked, but the question as to when is the moment you notice it's starting to hurt your friend, right? Because there are some guys that are in bad relationships and they weather that storm almost unfazed, right? And if that's the case, then all right. But there does come a point where you start to notice that it is legitimately hurting your friend. And when it hurts your friend, you have to step in, because being on the inside of that situation, I had nobody told me that I was in a bad spot. Nobody told me they were concerned for me. Nobody told me what their thoughts were. They all thought I had it handled. And there was some pretty obvious signs that life was shit. So as soon as you notice it's hurting your friend is when you should step in my opinion.
Did you feel like you knew it was bad? Like, did you feel like you needed somebody to tell you?
I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
I didn't need anybody to tell me that it was bad, but I wanted people to.
Right.
Right? It wasn't... I think when you're in a really bad spot, in anything in life, sometimes just having the people that you care about and that care about you have the courage to be vocal enough to kind of share their concerns. And I know people don't share their concerns because they're afraid that maybe it'll upset you. But I think in relationships such as these, I would be more hurt if you guys didn't tell me. And that you let me continue to suffer. So I wanted people to tell me.
I feel like it doesn't take much either. Like, it's not like you need somebody to come up and be like, you need to leave this person right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it could be something as simple as like, hey man,
you're not
maybe
you.
rethink this. You're not you.
Yeah.
Like, I can see this is hurting you. That's all it takes. Like, I don't feel like people don't generally need that much encouragement to get themselves off the ground and galvanize them to do what's best for them if they're stuck in something that's not.
Yeah.
It's people don't need that much encouragement, and it makes it even more heartbreaking when they don't get it, you know?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of you never tell somebody that they should end a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? You never encourage somebody to leave their significant other. But what you do is you help them realize their own self-worth and the things that they're losing due to this relationship in the hope that will help them make the decision that's right for them. Right? And having a candid conversation about, hey, you are not you anymore. These are the things I'm noticing. You know, I miss this part of you, I think is what can help somebody make those realizations.
That's a way better approach than telling somebody to just...
Well, people get defensive.
Yeah.
Right? If you walk up to them and say, hey, that girl you really like, I don't know. She's bad news. I think you should kick her to the curb.
Yeah.
Right? Because men are so great when we speak. We have so much tact.
Speak for yourself.
You might. Yeah.
Very tactful. 96.5% of the time.
Yeah.
So, I think we're starting to get to the point in time where we can start to... We've unraveled the yarn and seen all the beautiful colors of the threads, and now let's try to like wind the ball of yarn back together, or maybe start to knit the thing to...
What's he going with this?
Okay.
I'm usually great at metaphors.
No, you're not.
No. What?
No.
I mean, it started out well, and then I don't know where you went with it.
No. I'm excellent at
I will
metaphors.
give you lots of praise, but some of the metaphors you choose to move forward with on this podcast have the weirdest triggers. Like one time you were hungry and you talked about pie for half an hour, Matt.
I love the pie episode. I think that was a really powerful analogy. I think that was fantastic. Maybe some of the, the last one notwithstanding, maybe they just go over your head sometimes.
Oh.
That could be the problem. I digress. Okay. Hey, let's... what I'd love to hear from each of you is one piece of advice that you would give to anyone listening on how to maintain or to like help solidify those friendships that you really, really care a lot about. Like, what's one thing that you actively do, one thing you wish you did more, or maybe just like this general piece of advice of like, hey, here's how you continue to show up and continue to make sure that like your friendships are as strong as they can be.
I would say it's just hard to overstate the importance of like remaining conscious of how time passes. Like eventually your friends are gonna move on to a new job, go to a new city, life changes, and if you don't make that effort to remain a part of their life and try to share some life experiences with them, like the moment will pass and you'll lose them. So you want to just be conscious of that.
I'm going to piggyback on that answer and just say, like, take the initiative. Don't wait for them to... in my experience, guys more than girls are worse at planning stuff and organizing things. So I think that's one thing I've realized. Like, I've thought before, like, man, it's been a hot minute since I've seen so and so. Like, I wonder kind of what he's up to, and then in hindsight, it's like, just reach out and plan something, organize it, just take the initiative on meeting up and creating those moments where you can bond as a friend. So
I think continuing to refresh and bring together everyone in what bonded you in the first place, and continuing to do that is the most important. Whether it's going on trips, whether it's playing sports together, whether it's just sharing memories, I think just continuing to put that effort in and remember what brought you together in the first place is what's going to keep that relationship going and strong.
And I would agree with that, especially like in the last few years, like you and I have started doing like a bunch of different things together, and again, just, and like you said, Kyle, just reaching out. Like, it's, life gets busy and everything always happens, and it's always so easy to say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, and if you don't do it, serve in the moment. But yeah, I think both of what you guys just said, just reaching out and then just trying to do and have different experiences and continuing with that and whatever brought you guys together in the first place. I think that's really important.
And I don't know if, like, maybe it's just me, but I've had like some self-realization that in the past I've just been petty, being like, man, I was the one that I'm always organizing stuff. Like, I've always been the, with certain friends, right, they're just not very good at getting back right away, or their communication skills are just different than mine. And I would just get to a point where I'd be like, when he's ready to reach out, he'll reach out. And then start losing that friendship a little bit. It starts to erode away a bit because you're not seeing each other as much. So for me anyways, that was just kind of realizing, like, everyone's different social skills, different ways of communicating. Like, I can't be getting mad for really no reason just because I'm always the one that has to take the initiative on this, whatever activity we're going to be doing, or, you know, just planning it out. Like, good friend is a good friend, and just taking that time to see them, plan it out, and not be, I don't know, do you guys feel that way? Sometimes I'm just like, some days I'm like, man, the past 6 times we met up, it was me reaching out, and it would just be nice to have them reach out, but which I think there is some validity to that, but also, like, just realizing, like, it's not worth jeopardizing a friendship just because of that.
And I think there's a broader topic underneath what you're talking about here, because, and we've talked about it on the show before, where, you know, the best friendships are ones that have kind of a two-way street of value, right? So if you're the one always kind of creating these plans, but when you get together, it's, you know, a lot of great back and forth, and you support each other, and you have a really genuine, great friendship, then I think that's something that's really, you know, you should pursue that. If that person's just bad at planning things, but it's a great relationship, then take it upon yourself to continue that great relationship and make those bookings, even though you're the only one doing them. But if you find that when you're getting together that, you know, it's you trying to drag that relationship along, the conversation's not there, then you might have just grown apart, you know, in their different stages of your lives. And sometimes that happens too, right? So as with many of the things we talk about in our show, it's about the value that is created with those kinds of things. So sometimes I think you have to take a little bit of a step back. I had some friends recently I did that with, but it's not always a bad thing. It's just a sign of changing times, right?
Makes room in your life for something better too, you know?
Sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that there's 2 pieces to that for me. The first one, and you talk about this all the time, this is one of your favorite things to speak on, right? We only have so much energy to be able to share. And so it's being mindful of how much of yourself you're putting into connections and friendships that aren't being reciprocated. And that's really important. But at the same time, too, it's also I think my piece of advice would be to recognize and know what you bring to certain friendships. And you might be the planner. That might be the thing you're convening. You're bringing people together to be able to foster those shared experiences. And if that's your thing, then that's something that you need to lean into as well, right? And so it's kind of this balancing act, I think, between understanding when you're giving too much energy to something that's not being reciprocated, but also understanding that if that's you and if that's the way that you show up and you show love to your connections, then like that's something that you should continue to do, even at the expense of it being frustrating at sometimes, because obviously not everyone does that. So that's something that, you know, is a niche that you fit and fill and are needed for.
Do you want to answer your question before we move on to another one?
I just did. That was my piece of advice.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Anyways.
The yarn's unraveling further.
Yeah, fair enough. I began the show explaining that some of us are in better places than others, and that was my brain frying. All right?
Hangovers are hard.
Sometimes. Okay, so
Sometimes
I don't get them often.
I feel we're doing pretty good considering the condition we were all in this morning.
For sure, considering Carl was laying on the floor. So my answer for this question would be become your friend's biggest fan. Right? Like, I see it very often where, you know, somebody will try and go and learn a new skill or improve themselves in some way. The people that should be encouraging you the most to do that are your friends, right? But then sometimes you see your friends be like, well, why are you trying to learn that, right? I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I was explaining something to them and they go, well, like, does that make you any money? I'm like, no. But I don't care, right? Like, your friends should be your biggest supporters. They should be the ones that are always encouraging you to grow. So that to me is, you know, a great example of how to foster a good relationship is that if you should know that if you come to me to tell me anything, I'm going to encourage you to continue doing that.
I love it.
Right.
So we got be your friend's biggest cheerleaders. Be mindful of the moment. Don't let that time pass you by. Make sure that you're taking that time to instigate, reach out, connect, find those opportunities to get back to all of the shared experiences that really made you the friends that you are, and just make sure that you're continuing to look for opportunities to reach out and think that you thought about them thoughtfully, and make sure that we're able to connect that way. I think those are all really, really beautiful suggestions, piece of advice. So something that Carlo and I do, which I'm not quite sure how it'll go in a bigger group, but I'm keen to try it because I think it's a really core part of what we do at the end of our episodes. Is sharing a bit of gratitude and sharing something that we are thankful for or grateful for. Now, I'm going to suggest that we don't share one for everybody. I hate feeling like you have to give obligatory compliments. Not to say that they aren't well-meaning, but it feels different. It feels less authentic when you're like, well, I've got this list of things that I have to acknowledge people for. And so what I would suggest is that each of us maybe share one thing to one person that we're feeling in this moment, for whatever the case may be, and just take that opportunity, because as we've talked about lots, Carlo and I, men generally aren't good at acknowledging each other and not great at giving compliments all the time. And so it's a good opportunity, I think, to practice that.
Can I suggest so what if we did it where you can provide a piece of gratitude to someone else in the group, or you can provide a piece of gratitude for the group as a whole? Does that work?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, because I have mine in mind.
Very good.
Yeah.
Take us away.
Am I going first?
Sure.
What I am just truly grateful that I have you guys as individuals and as a group in my life. This is something that my life was so sorely missing for so long, and to have it show up in such a powerful and giant way in my life has been life-changing. To have each one of you here with me, and I can't imagine living a life without a group of guys like you ever again, because it is lonely.
Thank you for sharing that.
How do you follow that?
Yeah, I know.
Jeez,
Should say that for
you should
finance.
on last.
You just unraveled that yarn.
Just
right
yarns
into like
everywhere.
a giant heart.
Okay, so you guys will see that the card for this episode is just going to be an AI generated image of yarn unraveling.
Probably. For me, again, echoing some of Carl's words, it's been 6 years now or so, and Carl, you and I met a little bit afterwards, and just met you guys not too long ago. But having people in your life that you know you can go to for anything really at any time, I think that's so important. And having this group and you guys and how close we've become, and some of those shared experiences that we've gone through has been really great. So just honestly, just a big thank you, because I know that no matter what's going on, even if we haven't talked for a while, which sometimes happens because we get busy, we can pick up right where we left off, and it's like no time has passed at all. And I appreciate the effort that we make for us to check in with each other after some of that time has passed, where I was really, really good at, it's been a while, let's reach out, let's see how we're doing and all that. So I really appreciate that and the effort that this group makes. So yeah, thank you.
That's great.
I'm really grateful for how like friendly you guys have been. Like, my God, we just met you guys yesterday, but you're some of the nicest guys. Like, I'm really grateful for your friend group. That's what I'll say. And the hospitality from Calgarians has been great. You really stuck your neck out for us this weekend. Like, would have been tough to come down here without you helping us out. So you really did us a solid. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you guys introducing us to your friend group, because great guys and girls too.
That's
and
awesome. Not non-judgmental. That's what I'm grateful for. Showed up today, not in the best shape, and it was good. It just means we had a fun.
Grateful you can be yourself.
I can be myself around you guys.
And that is so big. Just being able to be yourself.
Yeah. So.
One of the things that I just find is so special to me. I know a lot of people that are leery about mixing groups of people. And I've always, because I've always had such like diverse friendship groups. Like I was like football and scouts and like so many different diverse groups of people. And there's always been this like general leeriness from others about, oh, I don't want to mix my friend groups. But I've always felt that if you are confident enough in the people that you have in your life, then you should be confident in the fact that they'll gel naturally together. And for me, I believe that if you're nervous about bringing different people in your life together in the same place, then something's missing. Like you're not being authentic somewhere, or you're being a different version of yourself, right? So coming back to being yourself, I think if you're being the most authentic version of yourself, then it should be really exciting, the opportunity to mix and mingle different friend groups from different walks of life together, because you have that trust and confidence in your own ability to make relationships, to know that those other relationships are going to end up like cross-pollinating in a really positive way. And so I'm just really, really thankful and grateful that I was proven right once again in all of these excellent people that I have in my life. But seriously, like, it's my favorite thing to bring people that I care about from different places together and watch like the incredible things happen. And so it's already been a great weekend, and as soon as we turn off this recording, it's going to continue to be a great weekend. And thank you all for being here with us today.
Yeah, I'm so happy we did this, and I'm very happy that you all agreed to do it. So this
Did we have a choice?
Not really. No.
I was gonna say that was mine. I was thankful for them letting us partake in this, being the first people on as like your sort of quote unquote guests here is really cool, and it's been like awesome watching your guys' podcast grow. And as you know, I love watching you guys' pretty faces, and it gives me just that opportunity just to kind of keep up with everything and kind of hear your guys' perspective, because I feel like I'm still, even though I'm not in the room when you guys are doing your podcast, it still gives me that chance to feel like I'm close to you guys, even though I'm a province away, and yeah, I just really appreciate that. So thank you.
Wow.
Very, very cool.
Very cool. Well, I think we're going to bring this very special episode to a close. We want to thank everybody that's not in the room for joining us today. We hope that that you enjoyed the insights from other people other than me and Matt. You didn't have to hear our voices the whole time, which I'm sure is a nice change of pace.